that drill bit grinding into my gate at 7 in the morning. That's a sound you don't forget. Sharp, angry metal cutting through steel while I'm standing there in my boxers and yesterday's t-shirt, watching this woman destroy my property like she owns it. Karen Winters, blonde hair pulled back in that tight ponytail that screamed control freak, wearing a power suit at dawn like she's heading to some corporate boardroom instead of my front yard. She's got this helper with her, skinny kid with a camera, snapping photos of every car in my driveway like he's documenting a crime scene. "Morning, Mike," she says, without looking up from her drilling. Sweet as pie, but with that edge that tells you she's enjoying this way too much. Just installing some new signage per Homeowners Association Regulation 7-4. I'm squeezing my dad's old shed key so hard in my pocket that the teeth are cutting into my palm. Had that key since he passed 2 years ago. Never could bring myself to clean out that shed, but I kept the key. Funny how you hold on to things when everything else gets taken away. The sign she's mounting says, "Closed gate, fine $500 per violation," in letters big enough to read from space. And here's the kicker. This is my gate, on my property, leading to my driveway that my father built with his own hands back in '87. "Karen, what the hell do you think you're doing?" She finally stops drilling and turns to me with this smile that would make a snake nervous. "Language, Mike. There are children in this neighborhood." She gestures to her photographer, who doesn't look old enough to buy cigarettes. This access point has been reclassified as private use of community lake access. Every vehicle that uses this gate owes the association $500 per entry. The kid hands her a tablet, and she starts scrolling through photos. "Let's see here. Your truck, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Your contractor friend's van, Monday and Wednesday. Your sister's car, weekend." She's doing math in her head, and that smile keeps getting wider. "That's $3,500 you owe as of this morning." Have you ever had someone punch you in the gut with paperwork? That's what this felt like. "You can't just decide my driveway is suddenly community property," I tell her, but my voice sounds weaker than I want it to. "Oh, but we can." She pulls out this official-looking document, all fancy letterhead and signatures. Emergency vote of the board, passed unanimously last Thursday night. Last Thursday, I was working a double shift, fixing Mrs. Henderson's plumbing. Didn't even know there was a meeting. You'll receive formal notification in the mail, but I wanted to deliver the good news personally. She pats the freshly mounted sign like it's a pet. Payment is due within 7 business days. After that, we'll be forced to pursue legal remedies. The kid's still taking pictures. My truck, my sister's car from last weekend, even the oil stain on my driveway. Everything's evidence now. "This is insane, Karen. This has been my family's property for 40 years. "Was your family's property," she corrects. "Community interest supersedes individual convenience. It's all perfectly legal." She starts packing up her drill, real casual like she just hung a picture instead of basically stealing my driveway. The morning air smells like metal shavings and that expensive perfume she wears, the kind that costs more than most people's car payments. "It's 7 days, Mike. Clock's ticking." As she walks away, I notice something odd about that official document she showed me. The signature at the bottom looks different from the Karen Winters signature on my property deed from when I bought the house. Little things like that stick with you when you've spent 20 years in construction. You learn to spot when something's not quite right. But standing there in my underwear at 7 in the morning, watching her drive away in her spotless white SUV, I'm thinking about the wrong things. I should be thinking about lawyers, should be thinking about how to fight this. Instead, I'm thinking about my dad's key cutting into my palm and how he always told me that when someone tries to take what's yours, you don't just roll over and take it. She raised her phone again, and this time she smiled. That smile haunted me through my morning coffee. I kept replaying it while I got dressed, while I fed my dog Rex, while I tried to pretend this was just another Tuesday. But by 8:30, I couldn't sit still anymore. The community center parking lot was already half full when I pulled up. News travels fast in a neighborhood like ours, especially bad news. I could see clusters of people standing around their cars, holding papers that looked exactly like the one Karen had shoved in my face. "Mike!" That's Tom Bradley from 2 streets over, jogging toward me with this wild look in his eyes. "Tell me you got hit with this garbage too." He's waving his notice like it's on fire. Tom's one of those guys who keeps his lawn perfect and his car waxed, plays by every rule in the book. If they got to him, they got to everybody. 500 per vehicle entry, I tell him. You? 7,500. His voice cracks a little. My wife's been using our back gate to get to her pottery class at the lake, twice a week for 6 months. They're calling it commercial use because she sells some of her pieces. The smell of fresh asphalt from last month's parking lot repair mixes with Tom's nervous sweat. Around us, more neighbors are gathering. I recognize most of them. Martha Webb with her Tuesday grocery shopping, the Johnson twins who carpool to their job at the plant, old Pete Morrison who drives his grandson to the boat launch every weekend. This can't be legal, Martha's saying to anyone who'll listen. My husband fought in Vietnam. We've lived here 32 years. But here's the thing about panic. It spreads faster than wildfire. Within 20 minutes, there's maybe 40 people in that parking lot, all holding the same notices, all looking at me like I'm supposed to have answers. We need to organize, Tom says. Get a lawyer, fight this thing. With what money? Pete shoots back. They're already saying I owe them $4,000. Where am I going to get lawyer money on top of that? That's when I see her. Karen's white SUV pulling into the far end of the parking lot, moving slow like a shark circling wounded fish. She parks right where everyone can see her and just sits there, watching us through her windshield. Look at her, Martha whispers, just sitting there like she owns the place. She does own the place, Tom mutters, or thinks she does. The sun's getting higher now, and the heat's starting to build off the asphalt. Rex is panting in my truck with the windows down, but I can't leave. Not with Karen right there, watching us scramble. You know what I think? That's Jenny Martinez, young mom with twins. I think this whole thing smells fishy. My gate notice is dated last Friday, but I never got any official notification about this emergency meeting she mentioned. None of us did, Pete agrees. I check my mail every day. Never saw anything about reclassifying our properties. That's when something clicks. I pull out my phone and start dialing. Who you calling? Tom asks. City Hall. If there was really an official vote about community property, there should be public records. The phone rings 4 times before someone picks up. Planning and zoning. This is Tommy. Tommy Chen. Kid sounds about 12 years old, but I've dealt with him before when I needed permits. Good kid, honest. Tommy, it's Mike Reeves out on Lakeshore Drive. Quick question. Were there any homeowners association votes filed with the city last week? Anything about reclassifying private driveways? Long pause. I can hear him typing. Mike, I'm not showing any HOA filings for your subdivision in the past month. Last thing on record is from February. Something about mailbox standardization. The group around me goes quiet. Even Martha stops muttering. You sure about that, Tommy? Positive. These things have to be filed within 48 hours of any official vote. It's state law. I hang up and look around at my neighbors, 40 faces staring back at me, and I can see the exact moment when they all realize the same thing I just figured out. There was no vote, I tell them. Karen's SUV is still sitting there, but now she's on her phone, probably calling her lawyer or her accountant, or whoever helps her run these little schemes. So what do? Jenny asks. Before I can answer, Karen's door opens. She steps out in her business suit and starts walking toward us, still talking on her phone. Her heels click against the asphalt like a countdown timer. When she gets close enough, she ends her call and gives us all that same predator smile from this morning. Good morning, neighbors, she says, like we're all here for some kind of block party. I trust everyone's had a chance to review their assessments. There was no emergency vote, Tom blurts out. We checked with City Hall. Her smile doesn't even flicker. The association operates under private covenant, Tom. Not all of our internal decisions require municipal filing. Bullshit. That comes out louder than I meant it to, but I'm past caring about volume control. You can't just make up rules and start charging people. I'm not making up anything, Mike. She pulls out another folder, thick with documents. Property Covenant Section 12 clearly states that the board has discretionary authority over access management for community resources. She starts reading from some legal document, but I'm not listening to the words. I'm watching her hands, the way she holds the paper, the way her signature looks on this new document compared to the one from this morning. Because here's what 20 years in construction teaches you. People have patterns. The way they sign their name, the way they hold tools, the way they stand when they're lying through their teeth. And Karen Winters is definitely lying. But that night, everything changed. Tommy Chen doesn't look old enough to be handling official city records, but he's the one with the keys to the archive room and 3 cups of cold coffee on his desk. Kid's maybe 22, still has that eager look like he wants to solve every problem in the world before lunch. "You're sure about the timing?" he asks me for the 3rd time, pulling another box of files from the metal shelving. The basement of City Hall smells like old paper and that industrial cleaner they use in government buildings. Last Thursday night, that's when Karen claims this emergency vote happened. Tommy shakes his head and keeps digging through folders. "Mike, I'm telling you, nothing. No filings, no notifications, no copies of meeting minutes. If your HOA held an official vote that affects property access, I should have paperwork by Monday morning. It's automatic." He's got these thick glasses that make his eyes look huge, and right now they're filled with the kind of righteous anger you only see in people who actually believe the system works the way it's supposed to. "But here's what's weird," he continues, pulling out a manila folder. "I do have paperwork from your HOA, filed yesterday morning." The folder he hands me is thin, maybe 5 pages total. The first document is a property assessment form, dated 6 months ago. It shows 3 parcels of land around the lake that were recently purchased by something called Lakeshore Development LLC. "You ever heard of this company?" Tommy asks. I shake my head, but something about the addresses bothers me. They're all lakefront property, all positioned to control access to the water, the kind of spots developers dream about. The second document is a transfer of authority form. It gives Lakeshore Development the right to manage vehicular access protocols for community lake resources, dated 2 weeks ago. "Tommy, who signed this?" He leans over my shoulder and points to the signature line, Karen Winters, as HOA president. But here's the thing that makes my skin crawl. This signature looks completely different from the one on the document she showed me this morning. Different handwriting, different pressure, even different pen ink. "Can I get copies of these?" "Already made them." Tommy hands me a folder with everything duplicated. "Mike, between you and me, this whole thing stinks. I've been doing this job for 2 years, and I've never seen an HOA president sign away community access rights to a private company." The fluorescent lights down here buzz like angry insects. I'm staring at these papers, and pieces of a puzzle are starting to click together, but the picture they're making doesn't look good. "One more favor, Tommy. Can you look up the ownership records for Lakeshore Development LLC? More typing, more clicking through databases that probably cost taxpayers a fortune." Here we go. He turns his monitor toward me. Lakeshore Development LLC, incorporated in Delaware 6 months ago. Primary shareholder. He pauses, squints at the screen. K. Winters Consulting. Have you ever felt your stomach drop into your shoes? That's what happened to me in that moment. Karen wasn't just enforcing HOA rules, she was creating them. She'd set up her own company, signed away community access rights to herself, and then started charging her neighbors for using their own driveways. "Tommy, I need everything you can print about Lakeshore Development. Every filing, every permit application, every piece of paper that mentions them." "That's going to take a few minutes." While he's printing, I walk over to the small basement window and look out at street level. I can see people's feet walking by. Normal folks going about their normal Tuesday lives, having no idea that their neighbor is running some kind of elaborate real estate scam. My phone buzzes with a text from Tom Bradley. "Emergency meeting tonight, 7 p.m. Community Center. Karen called it. Says she has updates about payment plans." Payment plans. Like we're buying cars from her instead of trying to use our own damn driveways. Tommy hands me a thick stack of papers. "This is everything I've got, but Mike, be careful with this stuff. If Karen's really running some kind of shell game with community property, she's got lawyers. Good ones." I'm folding the papers into my jacket when Tommy grabs my arm. "One more thing. That emergency vote she claimed happened last Thursday? I checked the community center reservation logs. No HOA meeting scheduled. But you know what was booked that night?" I wait. Karen Winters reserved the conference room for Lakeshore Development Planning Session. The pieces aren't just clicking together anymore. They're slamming into place like a machine gun loading rounds. Karen wasn't enforcing association rules, she was manufacturing them. The emergency vote never happened, because there was never any emergency except the one she created. She'd been planning this for months, buying up strategic properties, setting up shell companies, and positioning herself to control every access point to the lake. And tonight, she wants us all in one room to discuss payment plans. Tommy, do me a favor. Don't mention this conversation to anyone, not yet. He nods, but I can see the wheels turning behind those thick glasses. This kid's about to become very valuable and very dangerous. I'm halfway to my truck when my phone rings. Unknown number. Mike Reeves? Yeah? This is Sarah Miller. I'm the HOA treasurer. I think we need to talk. Under that gravel, my shovel hit metal. Sarah Miller's voice on the phone sounds like she's been crying, or maybe just hasn't slept in days. She wants to meet at the old diner on Route 9, the one that still has those red vinyl booths and the coffee that could strip paint. Don't tell anyone you're meeting me, she says before hanging up, especially not Karen. 20 minutes later, I'm sliding into a booth across from a woman who looks like she's aged 10 years in the past week. Sarah's maybe 38, usually put together in that suburban mom way, but today her hair's in a messy ponytail, and she's got the shaky hands of someone who's had too much coffee and not enough sleep. Mike, I've been the treasurer for this association for 3 years, she starts, stirring sugar into coffee that's already sweet enough to kill a diabetic. I thought I knew everything about our finances. The diner smells like bacon grease and broken dreams. There's maybe 4 other customers in here, all keeping to themselves. Perfect place for secrets. Thought, I ask. Last month, Karen asked me to sign some documents, said they were routine financial authorizations, transfer of funds for lake maintenance, updated vendor contracts, that kind of thing. She pulls a folder from her purse with hands that won't stop shaking. I never read them carefully. I trusted her. She slides the folder across the table. The first document is a bank signature card, authorizing Karen Winters as sole signatory on the HOA emergency fund account. Amount, $47,000. Sarah, tell me you didn't. I signed it. God help me, I signed it. Her voice cracks. But that's not the worst part. The second document is a property management agreement between the HOA and Lakeshore Development, LLC. It gives Karen's company exclusive authority to manage all access-related revenue streams for a period of 5 years. She's been planning this for months, Sarah continues. Maybe longer. I started going through the books after you called City Hall this morning. Tommy Chen called me right after you left. That kid Tommy's going to make enemies if he keeps being this helpful. What did you find? Sarah's coffee cup rattles against the saucer when she sets it down. 3 property purchases in the past 6 months, all prime lakefront lots, all bought with HOA emergency funds. The fluorescent light above our booth flickers like it's trying to die. Outside, traffic moves past in that steady rhythm of people heading home, from honest jobs to honest problems. She used association money to buy property for her private company? Worse than that, she bought the properties, then immediately transferred them to Lakeshore Development for $1 each. Perfect legal laundering of association funds into private ownership. My dad's key is cutting into my palm again. I realize I've been gripping it so hard that my knuckles are white. Sarah, why are you telling me this? Why not go to the police? Because she has documentation for everything. Bills of sale, board authorizations, signed approvals. All of it looks legitimate if you don't know what you're looking for. She reaches into the folder again and pulls out a sheet of paper, including this. It's a resignation letter, dated today, signed by Sarah Miller. It states that she's stepping down as treasurer due to personal conflicts of interest and disagreement with current association direction. I didn't write this, she says, but that's my signature. The coffee in my mouth turns bitter. How? She's been collecting blank signed forms for years. Told us it was for efficiency, so she wouldn't have to call special meetings for routine approvals. I must have signed 50 blank authorization forms over the past 3 years. Have you ever watched someone realize they've been completely played? It's like watching a car accident in slow motion. Sarah's face goes through about 5 different emotions before settling on something that looks like rage mixed with shame. There's more, she says. The emergency meeting tonight, she's not just talking about payment plans. She's got eviction notices prepared for anyone who doesn't pay by Friday. Eviction notices? She can't evict people from their own homes. She can if they're violating association covenants. And according to the documents I signed without reading, using community access points without proper authorization is grounds for immediate removal from the association. The diner suddenly feels too small, too warm. I need air, but I need information more. Sarah, what do you need from me? Help me stop her. Tonight, at that meeting, she's going to present this whole thing as a done deal. But if we can show people what she's really doing, she'll just deny it, claim the documents are fake, claim you're lying. Not if we have proof she never held that emergency vote. Not if we can show the money trail. Sarah leans forward, and for the first time since I sat down, she looks like she has fight left in her. Tommy Chen made copies of everything. Property transfers, bank records, and corporation documents. It's all there. My phone buzzes with another text from Tom Bradley. Meeting moved to 6 p.m. Karen says urgent business requires earlier start. 6 o'clock. That gives us maybe 2 hours to figure out how to corner a woman who's been planning this scam for months and has lawyers backing her up. Hey, Sarah, there's something else. When this all comes out, Karen's going to try to destroy you. She'll claim you were in on it, that you're just as guilty. I know. Her voice is steady now, calmer. But I'd rather be destroyed for doing the right thing than live with what I helped her do to our neighbors. I'm starting to understand why Karen wanted her meeting moved up. Word's getting out. People are asking questions. She needs to lock this down before anyone else starts digging. But here's what Karen doesn't know about construction workers. We're used to dealing with unstable foundations. And when something's built wrong from the ground up, sometimes the only solution is to tear it all down and start over. I closed the toolbox, didn't say a word. The community center at 6 o'clock looks like a funeral where nobody likes the deceased. Folding chairs arranged in neat rows, fluorescent lights humming overhead, and the kind of tension you can taste in the back of your throat. Everyone's here. Tom Bradley with his perfect lawn and worried eyes. Martha Webb clutching her purse like it contains state secrets. The Johnson twins whispering to each other in the back row. And there's Karen standing at the front with a projector and a stack of papers thick enough to choke a horse. She's changed into a different suit, navy blue this time, with a red scarf that probably costs more than most people's monthly grocery bill. Power dressing for power plays. Sarah slides into the seat next to me, just as Karen calls the meeting to order. She's got a manila envelope in her lap, and I can see her hands trembling slightly. We agreed on the signal. If things go sideways, she'll raise her hand like she has a question. That's when I make my move. Thank you all for adjusting your schedules, Karen begins, clicking her remote to bring up the first slide. I know the recent access management changes have raised some concerns. Access management changes? Like she's reorganizing a filing system instead of stealing people's driveways. Before we address payment options, I want to clarify the legal foundation for these assessments. Next slide shows a bunch of legal text that nobody in this room, except maybe Karen, actually understands. Section 12 of our community covenant clearly establishes board authority over shared resource allocation. Tom Bradley raises his hand. Karen, we checked with City Hall. There's no record of the emergency vote you mentioned. Karen's smile doesn't waver for a second. Tom, I appreciate your diligence, but not all association business requires municipal filing. This was an internal board decision, fully within our authority. What board? That's Pete Morrison from somewhere behind me. Half the board resigned last year. Far as I know, it's just you making decisions. Which brings me to tonight's second agenda item. Karen clicks to the next slide. Due to recent resignations and conflicts of interest, I'm pleased to announce new board appointments. The slide shows 5 names. Karen Winters, President. 4 other names I don't recognize, all with addresses outside our neighborhood. Sarah's hand goes up. That's the signal. I stand up before Karen can call on her. Karen, I've got a question about those property purchases. The room goes quiet. Karen's remote hand pauses halfway to the next click. Property purchases? The 3 lakefront lots bought with association funds 6 months ago. The ones that were immediately transferred to Lakeshore Development for $1 each. You know that moment in a poker game when someone realizes their bluff just got called? Karen's face does this tiny thing. just a slight tightening around the eyes. But in a room this quiet, everyone sees it. Mike, I'm not sure what you're referring to. Tommy Chen at City Hall has all the paperwork, filed yesterday morning. I pull out the copies and hold them up. $47,000 in emergency funds, used to buy property for your private company. The murmur that runs through the room sounds like water starting to boil. Karen clicks her remote, but nothing happens. She clicks it again. I think there's been some confusion about... No confusion? Sarah stands up, her voice stronger than I've heard it all day. I'm the treasurer, or was, until Karen forged my resignation letter this afternoon. Karen's remote drops from her hand and clatters on the floor. Martha Webb stands up next, then Tom, then the Johnson twins, one by one, 40 neighbors getting to their feet, and Karen standing up there alone, with her projector showing legal text that nobody believes anymore. Now wait just a minute, Karen says, but her voice has lost that smooth confidence. These are serious accusations, and I won't stand here and... Then sit down. That comes from Pete Morrison, and it gets a laugh from the crowd that sounds more angry than amused. Karen doesn't sit down. Instead, she reaches for her phone. I'm calling my attorney. This meeting is over. Meeting's not over until we vote, Tom Bradley calls out. I motion to remove Karen Winters as HOA president, effective immediately. A second, that's Sarah. All in favor? 40 hands go up. The only person not voting is Karen, who's already dialing her phone. This is illegal, she says into the phone. They can't just vote me out without proper procedures. But here's the thing about proper procedures. They work both ways, and Karen's been so busy bending the rules in her favor that she forgot other people can use those same rules against her. Her attorney must not be answering because she hangs up and tries another number. Karen, I say, and my voice carries across the room like I'm calling to her from across a construction site. You want to explain to everyone how you signed transfer documents with Sarah's signature when Sarah never signed them? She stops dialing. You want to explain how you incorporated Lakeshore Development 6 months ago and then used association money to buy property for your own company? Her phone starts ringing. She declines the call. You want to explain how you scheduled a planning meeting for your development company on the same night you claimed the HOA held an emergency vote. The silence in that room is so complete, you could hear a pin drop on carpet. Karen's standing there with her phone in her hand, looking at 40 neighbors who've just figured out they've been scammed by someone they trusted. The contracts are legal, she says finally. Everything I did was authorized. Authorized by forged signatures, Sarah says. Authorized by a board that doesn't exist. Authorized by votes that never happened. Karen looks around the room one more time, and I can see her calculating odds, measuring distances to the exit, trying to figure out if there's any play left that gets her out of this cleanly. There isn't. She picks up her projector, grabs her stack of papers, and walks toward the door. Her heels click against the linoleum like a countdown timer that just ran out. At the door, she turns back. You have no idea what you've just done, she says. No idea what this is going to cost you. And what I found next, that broke everything. Karen's threat hung in that community center like smoke after a fire. Everyone's celebrating, shaking hands, talking about how we showed her what's what. But something in her voice when she said, "You have no idea what this is going to cost you," keeps gnawing at me. Sarah and I stay behind after everyone else filters out. She's organizing the documents we use to expose Karen, making neat little piles on the folding table like she's trying to put order back into a world that just got turned upside down. Mike, what do you think she meant by that? Sarah asks. Before I can answer, my phone buzzes. Text message from an unknown number. Check your mailbox. It's 8:30 at night. Mail doesn't come at 8:30. Sarah, I need to get home. Can you lock up here? The drive back to my house takes 10 minutes, but it feels like an hour. My street looks different somehow. Too quiet, too dark. Even the streetlights seem dimmer than usual. There's an envelope in my mailbox. No stamp, no return address. Just my name written in block letters across expensive-looking paper. Inside is a single document with the letterhead Morrison, Clark & Associates, legal counsel. The law firm name sounds familiar, but I can't place where I've heard it. Dear Mr. Reeves, it starts. Our client, Lakeshore Development LLC, has authorized us to inform you that your property at 247 Lakeshore Drive is in violation of multiple county building codes and environmental regulations. The paper feels heavy in my hands, heavier than paper should feel. Inspection records indicate unpermitted modifications to your driveway and gate system, installed without proper watershed impact studies required for lakefront properties. Additionally, your residential use of the property appears to be in violation of commercial zoning restrictions established in 2019. Commercial zoning restrictions. I've lived here for 15 years. My dad built this house in 1987. What commercial zoning restrictions? Our client is prepared to purchase your property at current assessed value to resolve these violations and avoid lengthy legal proceedings. Please contact our offices within 48 hours to discuss terms. I read it twice, then a third time. It's lawyer language, but the message is clear. Sell your house, or we'll bury you in legal problems you can't afford to fight. My phone rings. Sarah. Mike, I just got home. There's a letter in my mailbox from some law firm. They're saying I embezzled association funds and committed wire fraud. The streetlight above my mailbox flickers like it's trying to die. Sarah, get in your car and come to my house, right now. What's wrong? Just come and bring that letter. While I'm waiting for Sarah, I call Tommy Chen. Kid answers on the first ring, like he's been expecting this call. Tommy, it's Mike. Did you get any unusual mail today? How'd you know? His voice sounds tired, older than his 22 years. Letter from some law firm saying I improperly disclosed confidential city records. They want me fired and charged with criminal misconduct. Same law firm that sent letters to me and Sarah? Morrison, Clark, and Associates. Mike, these guys are big time. Like, charge $500 an hour big time. How does Karen afford lawyers like this? That's when it clicks. Morrison, Clark, and Associates. I've seen that name before, on the incorporation documents for Lakeshore Development. They're not just Karen's lawyers, they're her partners. Sarah pulls into my driveway just as I'm putting the pieces together. She's got her letter, plus a stack of other papers she grabbed from her house. Mike, look at this. She spreads documents across my kitchen table. I went through all my financial records tonight. The blank authorization forms I signed, there were way more than 50. The forms are arranged chronologically. Authorization to transfer funds. Authorization to modify association bylaws. Authorization to enter into vendor contracts. Authorization to dissolve the elected board and appoint new members. She's been building this for years, Sarah says. Every time she asked me to sign something for efficiency, she was actually getting me to sign away more authority to her. Sarah, how much did she steal? Sarah pulls out her calculator and starts adding numbers. Not just the $47,000 for the property purchases. There's maintenance contracts with companies that don't exist. Legal fees paid to firms that never provided services. Insurance payments on policies that were never issued. She shows me the final number, $127,000. That's every penny the association had in reserves, plus the special assessments from last year's roof repairs. My dad's key is cutting into my palm again. I set it on the table between us, and for some reason, looking at that old piece of metal helps me think more clearly. She knew we'd figure it out eventually, I say. That's why she moved so fast with the driveway scam. She needed to create a legal justification for forcing people out of their homes. But we stopped her. We voted her out. Did we? Sarah, look at these lawyer letters. She's not trying to defend what she already did. She's launching the next phase. Sarah's face goes pale as she realizes what I'm saying. She never planned to make money from driveway fees. She planned to use the fees as an excuse to take people's houses when they couldn't pay. And now that we've exposed her theft, she's switching to plan B, use high-powered lawyers to force us out with legal threats we can't afford to fight. My phone buzzes with another text. This one's from Tom Bradley. Got letter from lawyers. Says my garage violates setback requirements. Want me to sell or face prosecution. Then another text from Pete Morrison. Law firm says my boat dock is environmental hazard. Sell house or get sued. She's doing this to everyone, I tell Sarah. Everyone who stood up to her tonight is getting hit with legal threats designed to force them out of their homes. Sarah's hands are shaking again, but this time it's not fear, it's rage. Mike, I helped her do this. I signed the papers that let her steal our money. I have to fix this. We fix it together. But first, we need to understand exactly how deep this goes. I'm spreading the documents across the table when I notice something odd about one of the authorization forms. The signature looks different from Sarah's usual signature. Cleaner, more practiced, like someone had been rehearsing it. Sarah, did you sign this one? She looks at the form and shakes her head. That's not my signature. Similar, but not mine. We find 3 more forms with forged signatures. 3 more authorization forms that Sarah never signed, never even saw, giving Karen authority she never actually had. She's been forging my signature for months, Sarah says. Maybe years. That's when my phone rings. Unknown number. Mike Reeves? Yeah? This is Dan McReady. I used to be the county building inspector before I retired. I think you and I need to have a conversation. Rules, I said. Let's test yours. Dan McReady looks exactly like what you'd expect from a guy who spent 30 years inspecting other people's construction work. Weathered hands, sharp eyes, and the kind of confidence that comes from knowing building codes better than most people know their own names. He's sitting at my kitchen table at 9 o'clock at night, going through Karen's legal threats like he's reading a grocery list. Commercial zoning restrictions established in 2019, he reads aloud, then laughs. Mike, I wrote those restrictions. They apply to new construction only, and they specifically exempt existing residential properties. Sarah leans forward. So, her lawyers are just making things up? Not making up, misrepresenting. There's a difference. Dan pulls out a folder thick with official county documents. See, Karen's been very clever about this. Every violation they're claiming is technically real, but they're applying regulations incorrectly, taking things out of context, or citing codes that don't actually apply to your situations. He spreads out building permits, zoning maps, and inspection reports. Your driveway, Mike, perfectly legal. Grandfathered in under the 1987 construction permits. Tom Bradley's garage, built to code in 2003, inspected and approved. Pete Morrison's dock has a valid environmental impact waiver that's good for another 8 years. So why are they threatening us, I ask? Because most people don't know that. They get a letter from a fancy law firm threatening legal action, and they panic, sell their house rather than fight. Dan's expression darkens. I've seen this before. It's called legal intimidation, and it's more common than you'd think. Sarah's been quiet, but now she speaks up. Dan, how did you know to call Mike? Because I got one of their letters too, claiming I improperly approved permits during my time as inspector. He chuckles, but there's no humor in it. Funny thing is, I kept copies of everything. Part of being thorough, I guess. So, when their letter claimed I approved your driveway without proper watershed studies, I was able to check my records. He pulls out a thick file folder. Not only did I require watershed studies, I required 2 of them, plus soil stability analysis, drainage impact assessment, and environmental clearance. Your dad didn't just build that driveway, Mike. He over-engineered it. There's something about seeing my father's name on official documents that hits me harder than I expected. All those weekends when I was a kid, watching him survey the land, measure twice, cut once, do everything right the first time. Dan, what's Karen's endgame here? Same as it's always been. Force people out so she can buy their properties cheap and develop the lakefront. He taps the zoning map. If she could get rid of the existing homes, she could rezone the entire area for commercial development. Condos, shopping centers, maybe even a resort. But we stopped her. We voted her out of the HOA. Dan shakes his head. You stopped one avenue of attack, but she's got others. The legal threats, the forged documents, the shell companies, that's all still active. And now she's desperate, which makes her dangerous. My phone buzzes with a text from Tommy Chen. Working late tonight, found something big. Meet me at City Hall tomorrow 8 a.m. Dan, if we can prove she forged Sarah's signature, can we get her arrested? Maybe. But forgery's hard to prove unless you catch someone in the act. And her lawyers will argue that Sarah authorized Karen to sign documents on her behalf. He looks at Sarah. Did you ever give her that kind of authority? Never, not formally. That's the problem with the word formally. Karen's lawyers will argue it was an informal arrangement, a handshake deal, understood between friends. Sarah's been looking through the authorization forms again, and suddenly she stops. Wait, Dan, look at this. She hands him one of the blank forms with Karen's forged version of Sarah's signature. This is dated 3 weeks ago, right? Yeah. But I was in Florida 3 weeks ago. My mother's funeral. I was gone for 10 days. She pulls out her phone and shows us airline receipts, hotel confirmations, funeral home documents. I wasn't even in the state when this was supposedly signed. Dan's eyes light up. Now that's something we can work with. You can't sign a document when you're 2,000 miles away. We spend the next hour going through every document with Sarah's signature, cross-referencing dates with her calendar, her work schedule, her travel records. We find 7 documents Sarah never signed, all dated when she was either out of state or in the hospital with her daughter last month. This is it, Dan says. This is how we stop her. But I'm thinking about something else. About the way Karen looked when she walked out of that meeting tonight. About her threat that we had no idea what this was going to cost us. Dan, what if she doesn't care about getting arrested? What if she's planning to disappear with whatever money she's already stolen? He's quiet for a long moment. Mike, how much do you think she's taken from the association? Sarah checks her calculations again. At least $127,000, maybe more if there are accounts I don't know about. That's not enough to disappear on, not for someone with Karen's lifestyle. Dan pulls out his phone and starts typing. But what if she's not just stealing from your association? He shows us a news article from 6 months ago. Sunset Hills HOA president accused of embezzling $50,000. Another article from last year. Riverside Community Association treasurer missing along with $75,000 in reserve funds. She's done this before, Sarah breathes. Not her specifically, but someone with her methods, her shell companies, her lawyers. Mike, I think your neighborhood association was just one stop on a much bigger tour. My dad's key is warm in my hand now. I've been holding it so long it's absorbed my body heat. Looking at it, I remember something he used to say when I was learning construction. Son, when you find rotten wood in a wall, you don't just patch over it. You tear out everything that's infected and start fresh. Dan, what do we need to prove Karen's been running a multi-neighborhood scam? Bank records, financial documents from other HOAs she's been involved with, and someone brave enough to file criminal charges. Sarah stands up. I'll do it. I signed those forms without reading them. I helped her, even if I didn't know it. This is my responsibility. Sarah, you'll be painting a target on your back. She'll come after you with everything she's got. She's already coming after me. At least this way, I'm fighting back. I look around my kitchen table, at Dan with his files and his 30 years of experience, at Sarah with her determination and her stack of evidence, at all these documents that prove what we suspected but couldn't prove before. And I think about my father, who built this house and this driveway and this life with his own hands, who taught me that sometimes the only way to fix something is to tear it down and start over. Tomorrow morning, we file charges, I say. We take everything we've got to the district attorney's office, and we let them sort it out. Dan nods. I'll call some contacts at the state attorney general's office. If this is as big as I think it is, they'll want to investigate. Sarah's phone buzzes with a text message. She looks at it and goes pale. What is it? I ask. She shows me the screen. Message from Karen. Enjoyed our little game tonight, but games have consequences. Check your property tax assessments in the morning. I pull out my own phone and call Tommy Chen. Kid answers on the first ring, like he's been waiting for this call. Tommy, I need you to freeze all property assessment records for everyone in our neighborhood, right now. Mike, I can't just... Tommy, if you don't freeze those records tonight, a lot of good people are going to lose their homes over fraudulent tax assessments. Long pause. How fraudulent are we talking? The kind that turn a $100,000 house into a $1 million tax bill. Jesus. Okay, I'm heading back to the office. Give me 20 minutes. I hang up and look at Dan and Sarah. One more night, then we end this. Dan starts gathering his documents. Mike, you know she's not going to go quietly, right? People like Karen, when they're cornered, they don't just surrender. I'm counting on it. Sometimes the only way to catch someone is to let them make the mistake that finally exposes everything. After Dan and Sarah leave, I sit alone in my kitchen with my father's key and all these papers that prove what I've known in my gut since this morning, that Karen Winters thought she could steal our homes, our money, and our community because she figured we were too scared or too stupid to fight back. She figured wrong. Tomorrow, we find out exactly how wrong. But tonight, in the quiet of my father's house, looking at the gate he built and the driveway he poured and the life he made possible for me, I know one thing for certain. Some things are worth fighting for, even when the fight costs you everything. I put the key back in my pocket and turn off the lights. Tomorrow's going to be a long day.